Whether it is Kapil Sibal or Prashant Bhushan, they're doing great disservice to the country. And let me say this with some responsibility, that the judiciary of the country is an institution which has always stood for civil liberties and the rights of the people of the country. Mr. Prashant Bhushan is the same one who was punished under contempt of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court found that the allegations that he made were scurrilous. And yet again, this lobby has come out because the judiciary is doing its job, but the agenda of this lobby is only to divide India, to destroy credible institutions of the country, and we see how they speak in one voice, but the country will also unite to speak in one voice now and give them a befitting reply.
Right, Mr. Bhatia, thank you for speaking to us. I think we've also got Swapnil Kothari on the phone line with us. Mr. Kothari, good morning. Mr. Kothari, what do you make of these comments that have come in from Prashant Bhushan? He made them at a webinar that he was attending.
Well, I think these comments are absolutely uncalled for, and especially they do not befit a senior advocate of his stature, possibly having spent about 4 to 5 decades in the very Supreme Court that he, so possibly idolizes at one point in time, and now suddenly feels disheartened by the same. This seems to be some sort of a concerted effort, from one comment made by Mr. Sibal the other day and one by Mr. Prashant Bhushan. Both supposedly have some sort of an affiliation with the Congress party. But I don't want to get into politics of this at all. I would rather view those comments on the merits of the fact that they have been made by both senior advocates and have been made by about the highest judicial court, and especially overall the judiciary as one. I believe that it's the judiciary pretty much which is running the country in association with the media today, which gives a signal service to the judiciary in spreading out all the judgments of the judiciary and all the courts and the observations made by the judiciary, and conducts debates on the same and tries to reach out to the general public as such, which all of you channels do. So I believe that these comments really bring down the judiciary into a disrepute and tend to dishearten and convey a wrong message to the people of the country that seem to, the 125 crore people that seem to have ultimate faith in the court of the land. Till date, you will know that whenever there is a fight or there is some sort of a squabble, people still say, "Main tujhe court mein dekh lunga." That means they still have faith in the judiciary. And all of these statements which have been made in the past couple of weeks, or a couple of days, should I say, by senior advocates, bring the judiciary down into complete disrepute and tend to diminish the trust of the 125 crore people that they have. Because the faith of the people in the executive and the legislature is always wishy-washy. But in the judiciary, it is still unerring, and people still have that faith that if these two do not function well, then the third arm of the democracy, the judiciary, will do the justice to us and will give it, albeit delayed, but it will give it to us, because so far the Supreme Court especially has done a sterling job. And of course all the high courts of the country and all the lower courts also, but the Supreme Court in particular has laid down the path for the country as such, and has given the signal service to the country as such. And this is where the senior advocates need to be really watching their words, and especially when they comment about the judiciary. If they cannot comment positively, then I think they should refrain from commenting negatively. It is a very sad situation.
Right.
This is what we are facing on the 75th year of our independence eve. It is extremely disheartening and disgusting, if I may say so.
Right. Mr. Kothari also then goes on to say that there is a lure of government jobs for judges. Do you think these kind of statements actually do quite a bit of disservice to normal people who are looking at the law to solve their issues and problems?
Well, very much so. You cannot, to say that I am giving judgments because I have some government job in the line post-retirement is to say that I am bending the rule of law, I am compromising on my integrity, and I am at the service of the government, which is absolutely abhorrent to say, simply because our judiciary is one of the most independent judiciaries across the world. And trust me, I've practiced quite a bit across the globe in many jurisdictions, particularly the United States and England, especially where the judiciary is extremely independent. And trust me, I put the Indian judiciary very much on par with them, and more so at times in certain cases. So to say that because there is a government job at the end of the rainbow or at the end of my retirement, I will pass certain judgments. Yes, you may have one or two judges here and there who could do that, but that doesn't mean that the entire orchard is rotten. It may have one or two rotten apples, but to say that the entire orchard is rotten and I don't have that faith that the judgments are passed in this manner is an absolutely disreputable and a disgusting statement to make, and it tends to lower down the confidence of the people in the judiciary. So it is an absolutely uncalled for statement to make that even if you harbor those sentiments, even if you have proof of some of those things, then still you ought to refrain being an officer of the court. You cannot make that being a senior lawyer or being any lawyer or advocate you are an officer of the court first, and you have to protect. It's like, your own family. Within the family, if there are some troubles or there are some squabbles, you need to keep them within the family itself. You can convey them in the harshest terms to the people one-to-one, but do not make statements in public, especially when you are a senior advocate. You ought not to. I can pardon a junior lawyer or a junior advocate, but not somebody who's of a certain stature and at a seniority level. They ought to refrain themselves, and they need to be a little bit more prudent and circumspect before making comments in public, even if they think them to be true or even if they have proof of the same. But to say that, to tar the entire judiciary with the same brush, to paint it with the same brush is something which is absolutely uncalled for.
All right.
Certainly not.
All right, Mr. Kothari, appreciate you speaking to us on Republic TV. Thank you for joining us. So Swapnil Kothari over there reacting to the comments that have been made by Prashant Bhushan. He made these remarks at a webinar that he'd attended. At that webinar, of course, he was speaking on about the role of the judiciary. We're going to play out those remarks for you once again. So those comments that have come in from Prashant Bhushan, of course, coming in for a fair bit of criticism from various senior advocates. Prashant Bhushan, of course, did make these remarks at a webinar of the Indian American Muslim Council. He was speaking there, and that's where he made these comments. Now, these comments, of course, as I was earlier saying, have been criticized by various senior advocates as well as political parties who believe that Mr. Bhushan may be doing a great disservice to the country. I'm going to play out those. We're going to try and play out those remarks again for you in just a bit.
On the Supreme Court's recent rollback of civil liberties, or rather its assault on civil liberties, one needs to understand that the Supreme Court is charged with a very, very important responsibility to protect fundamental rights, human rights of the citizens, as well as non-citizens who are in India, such as Rohingya refugees, etc. In the recent years, since the Narendra Modi government has come to power, we have been seeing a sort of rampant trampling of rights of people. There is, of course, a full-blooded assault on minorities in this country. There are lynch mobs out on the streets. There are lynch mobs on the social media. Laws are being made to somehow reduce them to second-class citizens. All kinds of things are being done. There are fake encounters being done of Muslims. There are houses of Muslims being demolished just because they are protesting. But apart from that, we have been seeing an assault on the civil liberties of any dissenter, anybody who stands up and speaks out against this government, especially journalists, or activists, etc. A very large number of our activists and journalists are in jail. Some of our finest human rights activists have been arrested in the Bhima Koregaon case. Many of them were also arrested in the Delhi riots case. Many others are charged with sedition like Siddiq Kappan, etc., or charged under UAPA. and are being kept in prison for years altogether and are being denied bail. So in such a situation, the role of the Supreme Court and the high courts, the higher judiciary in India, becomes even greater because it is really their responsibility and their power. It is their power, their duty, their responsibility to protect the rights of people whose rights are being trampled. Justice Arun Mishra, who was another infamous judge who immediately or soon after retirement was made the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, was allowed to retain his official bungalow for 9 months, totally in violation of the rules, and thereafter made the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. Now, Justice Khanwilkar, who has delivered these other 3 judgments, including Zakia Jafri, Himanshu Kumar, PMLA, and he had delivered the Batali judgment. He's just retired. We don't know what post he will be given. There are many posts which are vacant. The chairmanship of the Law Commission, the Lokpal's post is also vacant. Let us see what post he is given. But we have seen from experience that these kind of judges who always side with the government, especially in judgments before their retirement, are usually given some post-retirement jobs. Just like Justice Ranjan Gogoi, the Chief Justice, who had delivered that Ayodhya judgment, who also delivered that Rafale judgment just before retirement, and soon after retirement, he was made a member of the Raj Sabha.
Go across to lawyer Deshrata Nigam on the kind of language that is yet again being used by Prashant Bhushan. Deshrata Nigam, we remember once there was a contempt proceedings against him, but the kind of words that are being said, the threatening and the besmirching of the reputation of the judiciary, it's shocking that anything and everything is being said, laws are being spoken of, people and civil rights are spoken of by people who are known to be a lobby.
Well, Ridham, in fact, if you look at Prashant Bhushan's career, he is a frustrated man. The moment the Congress went away from power, the hand which was on his head was removed. And I believe Supreme Court was very lenient when, they punished him for contempt of Supreme Court. It was kind of a token punishment. He is the kind of urban nexus belonging to the very same lobby. And when the judgments do not go the way they want, which they probably were used to during Congress time, then they start, leveling allegations, all kind of outlandish allegations that amounts to contempt of court and as well as, contempt of parliament. And he is forgotten and probably he is absolutely blind that these appointments are made subject to the provisions of the Act of the Parliament, because these acts want that a retired Supreme Court judge should be made based on National Human Rights Commission. So there are provisions made by the Parliament. So only people who are retired from a particular judge court, say for example the High Court or the Supreme Court, there is a particular qualification laid down by the Parliament, and therefore they are appointed not on the whims and fancies of a particular government. So he is misleading, and this is also a very serious provocation. I think some criminal action has to be initiated. Despite the fact he belongs to that profession, I am very clear that he's provoking people, and he's probably got that, motivation, that intention, probably because what happened in Bihar. He thinks that their kind of people are coming back. So look at the timing that has been done, and I think this is an act to be punishable by law.
Absolutely, I agree. Criminal action is the call of the day. People are trying to say too much, whether it's on social media, whether it's senior advocates who have an axe to grind since they're not winning cases, or whether it is people who have motivated options. We have to see how this will go. Deshrata Nigam, I thank you for being with us. We slip into a quick break, but this is a top focus today, all day on Republic TV.